Hello, this is episode 16 and welcome back to What's Happening Africa with me, Tanya. Hi, welcome back to What's Happening Africa with Tanya. Thank you so much for your patience. If you're someone who watches this channel constantly and has turned on post notifications, you may have noticed that I was unavailable last week due to a lot of reasons. But if you are connected on all our social media platforms, you may have noticed my apology. If you didn't see the apology, I'm really sorry, but life happens. And when life happens, sometimes you need to prioritize yourself. And a lot of stuff has been happening in Africa during this time. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. But before I get into it, do not forget to like, subscribe, and follow this channel. And also share this video with all your friends and family who need to stay up to date on everything that's happening in Africa every week. Please also follow our social media platforms where even though last week I was unavailable, I was able to put on some uploads, just some notifications and small reminders, connections from other platforms telling you what is happening every day of the week. So let's get right into it with, unfortunately, several natural disasters affecting 3 African nations, which then led to the loss of several lives. So we're just going to start with Morocco, where an earthquake, a record-breaking earthquake, has caused several casualties. On September 8th, 2023, at 23:11 DST, a powerful earthquake measuring between 6.8 and 6.9 in magnitude struck Morocco's Marrakesh Safi region. Centered 73.4 kilometers southwest of Marrakesh, near Eagle and the Outage ski resort in the Atlas Mountains, the earthquake resulted from shallow oblique thrust faulting. Tragically, it claimed at least 2,946 lives and counting, causing extensive damage and demolished historic landmarks in Marrakesh. Sadly, records state that this is the deadliest earthquake Morocco has had in a while, ever since the Agadir earthquake that happened in 1960. Records also state this is the second deadliest earthquake in 2023. Approximately 300,000 people, including 100,000 children, were affected. In response, many nations provided humanitarian aid, and Morocco declared a 3-day period of national mourning. King Mohammed VI pledged 11.6 billion to help the over 4.2 million affected by this earthquake. So far, $700 million has been donated for recovery efforts, with Morocco addressing the remaining costs through government funds, international aid, and continued donations to the recovery fund. And sadly, as if this was not enough for Africans, another disaster struck in Libya when the storm Daniel, also known as Cyclone Daniel, affected the residents of Libya, causing flash floods in several areas. Storm Daniel, also known as Cyclone Daniel, has made history as the deadliest and most costly Mediterranean tropical-like cyclone ever recorded. In addition, it holds the unfortunate distinction of being the deadliest weather event of 2023 thus far. Eastern Libya, already grappling with political instability, has been devastated by the storm's heavy flooding, leaving behind extensive damage that presents significant challenges for recovery efforts. The toll from this event is staggering, with about 3,000 recorded fatalities and over 10,000 individuals still recorded missing. These numbers raise concerns of the death toll continuing to rise. Storm Daniel brought torrential rains, resulting in widespread flooding across multiple regions in eastern Libya, which is governed separately. The storm struck cities like Benghazi, Susa, Baida, and Al-Maj, with Derna suffering the greatest impact. The city faced a double blow as 2 upstream dams burst in succession, unleashing a deluge of water that inundated the area, obliterating roads and bridges. Surrounded by mountains, Derna was affected the most, with flash floods almost reaching up to 3 meters. We just pray for the people in these areas and that everyone comes together, even though there's political disturbance in these areas, to help in these dangerous and struggling times. And our last and unfortunately most recent natural disaster is a landslide in the DRC affected and triggered by torrential rain, which is also sadly costing the lives of the people in the DRC. Torrential rains triggered a landslide in the northwestern Democratic Republic of Congo, claiming the lives of at least 17 individuals. The disaster occurred in the town of Lizal in the Mangala province alongside the Congo River, where houses were built at the mountain's base. Rescue efforts continue, with authorities cautioning that the death toll may rise as rescuers work through the mud and rubble. Governor Caesar Limbaya Mbangisa has called for machinery to clear debris and expressed condolences to the victims' families, declaring 3 days of mourning in the province. Climate change-induced heavy rains exacerbated the vulnerability of impoverished communities with inadequate infrastructure to extreme weather events, as noted by the United Nations climate experts. This tragedy follows a day of national mourning declared by President Felix Tshisekedi in April, when 16 people perished in multiple landslides in North Kivu Province, Lubero territory. If you're someone who has studied geography, pays attention to the local news, or just pays attention to weather patterns in general, you may notice that 2 of these previous events in Africa are affected by climate change. We hope that the leaders are listening and taking control of the situations, and that governments put aside all of their disputes and prioritize the lives of the people in these countries. Our hearts and prayers goes out to the people in Morocco, in Libya, and in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In other news, Tunisia is being affected by nationwide power cuts that are affecting the citizens and the nationals of Tunisia. Tunisia grappled with an unexpected nationwide power outage lasting approximately 3 hours on Wednesday, attributing to a technical issue, as announced by the state-owned utility company STEG. The blackout, which struck around 1 a.m. local time, was linked to an unspecified breakdown at the Radès power station in Tunisia's southern suburbs. While electricity restoration began at 4 a.m. in part of Tunis, some areas endured more than 4 hours without power, a rarity in Tunisia. In summer, a heat wave exceeding 45 degrees Celsius for scheduled load shedding, targeting various regions. STEC supplies 99% of Tunisia's electricity, primarily generated from natural gas, with renewables contributing just 2.5%. Tunisia relies on Algeria for much of its natural gas, benefiting from favorable tariffs on the gas pipeline connecting Algeria to Italy. The country also imports gas from Algeria and Libya. Additionally, Tunisia faces drinking water supply disruptions due to drought-threatening water reserves, with dams at only 27% capacity and government-imposed rationing in effect until the end of September. Although power cuts and load shedding sound awfully familiar to people in South Africa and Zimbabwe, a nation like Tunisia is not used to this, and if a nation or a government is not used to such disruptions, this can affect a lot of things. We hope that this is sorted soon for the areas that are still in darkness right now, and that water is restored to all the areas. This leads us to the last 2 reports, with one of them taking us to Rwanda, where the current President Kagame is stating that he is going to run once more. Rwandan President Paul Kagame has made a historic declaration revealing his intentions to seek a 4th term in the upcoming elections next year. Speaking at Jeune Afrique, Kagame, age 65, expressed gratitude for the confidence shown by Rwandans and affirming his candidacy. The Rwandan government recently synchronized the legislative and presidential election dates for August 2024. Kagame, who previously hadn't openly disclosed his intentions, has enacted controversial constitutional amendments allowing him to serve a third term and potentially govern until 2034. As a former rebel leader and de facto leader since the 1994 genocide, Kagame has secured overwhelming electoral victories in 2003, 2010, and 2017 with over 90% of the vote. Despite Rwanda's stability claims, Kagame faces mounting criticism with human rights groups accusing him of governing through fear, targeting political opponents, including extrajudicial killings, and stifling independent media. Sorry, I meant to say stifling independent media. The only other candidate in the presidential race so far is lawmaker Frank Habineza of the Green Democratic Party, who remains committed to promoting democracy. I do not need to line this out for you and say it word for word. It is important and essential that leaders change, not only because leaders are growing old, but also ideas are changing. Democracy requires us to compete and have impactful and open conversations. I, for one, believe that it is necessary for there to be a change in leadership. And although certain nations are behind and are not as developed, those that change presidency always help in adding a new perspective. I do not know what that says about certain countries that continue to have the same leader consecutively, but I do hope that the people of Rwanda do not lose any benefits or are not disadvantaged or not allowed to speak openly due to this decision. And finally, a very sad but also interesting news take on the death of a popular musician in Nigeria causing protests. Following the recent death of Afrobeat star Mohbad, I hope I'm saying his name right, hundreds of fans in Ibadan and Asaba, Nigeria are demanding justice, joining protests and expressions of grief seen in several southern Nigerian cities. Mohbad passed away under mysterious circumstances in a Lagos hospital with investigations initiated by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and a special investigative team formed. The hashtag Justice for Mohbad has trended on social media amid suggestions of industry bullying and controversy surrounding his former boss, Naira Marley. Naira Marley has called for a thorough inquiry. Mohbad, known as Emo, leaves behind a grieving fan base and a 5-month-old son. Similar demonstrations are being planned in Nairobi, Kenya, and London, UK. I'm very sorry I didn't bring you more positive news, especially during this time we need a little bit of sunshine, but the reality is this is the news. Next week, I do promise I'll bring you at least 2 top exciting and happy stories. With that in mind, we continue to send prayers to the countries that are still experiencing the aftermath of the natural disasters, and RIP to the local and very popular Nigerian star. Once again, thank you for watching What's Happening Africa with me, Tanya. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share this with all of your friends and family. Stay up to date. Also, follow me on social media so you know what's happening, any excuses for why I'm not posting, and also maybe a few short clips that will keep you up to date when you're in a rush. Thank you and have a good day. Goodbye.